I know the supernatural is something that isn't supposed to happen, but it does happen.
AM 1420, WBSM presents Spooky South Coast with your hosts Tim Weisberg and Matt Costa.
Good evening and welcome to Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa. Science advisor Matt Moniz are back in the studio. We also have Andrew Lake here with us as well. We'll get into that in a second, but right now I got to talk to these guys a little bit because they left me in the lurch last Saturday night. I was here all by myself. I'm pretty sure that they finally got the computer fixed like this morning.
Yeah.
From the damage that I did the other day.
I didn't think it was that bad. I think it went well.
Well, the good thing is...
There was no, like, fire or anything?
No fires. So. But for the podcast audience, it went perfectly because I edited out all the mistakes. Well, there wasn't too many problems, but you guys missed a great show because we had our Gary Patterson here. One of the greatest guests of all time.
He was great last time he was on.
And we had him on talking about Amy Winehouse and the 27 Curse. So if you missed that, you can check that out. It's on the archives. I noticed, Matt Costa, you got the archives all up to date.
Yep.
And we've been doing pretty good about getting them right up there.
No, it's unbelievable.
And tonight's show will be right up after the show as well. Modern technology. It's nice. And you want to kill that fan? Thanks. Take it out and shoot it. All right, we are here to talk about the paranormal, as we are each and every Saturday night. We have a great show planned for you tonight with our guest, Mark Kerman. He's the author of the new book, The Handbook for the Recently Haunted, and we're going to talk to him about that. And, of course, we'll take your calls as well. You want to write these numbers down so that you can call in during the course of the show. It's 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. Those numbers, of course, are on SpookySouthCoast.com, where you can also click the link to see Spooky TV and see what's going on in the studio while the show is happening. And that's also the home of our chat room as well, where we've got about 15 or so of the regulars all hanging out, and that's sure to grow over the course of the program. The new thing that you can reach us on is our text line, the Boo line, at 508-444-BOO1, 508-444-2661. That's the number if you want to text us during the course of the show. You can send in your text questions, your text comments, because people like Matt Costa over there, he's not really a face-to-face conversationalist as much as he is a texter, so he might want to text a question instead of asking it out loud. And, of course, you can also email us, spookykrew@SpookySouthCoast.com. So much technology. Now we've got to put it to good use and put forth a great program, which I think we shall do tonight. Andrew Lake is here, of course, from Greenville Paranormal Research to sit in and be our guest co-host. How you doing, Andy?
Doing fine. Thanks for having me.
And you've been wrapped up in a project. I hear that's just about finished up?
It is done. It is done. It was for the last year. I've been writing a book for Clarice's Haunted Road Trip series, Ghost Hunting Southern New England. And I've completed it, and it will be out September 13th is the date they give me.
That's excellent. I hope you'll come back and talk about that when it comes out.
Well, I'd love to be back. Yeah, great.
You're welcome anytime. Just got to bang on the window because the doors are locked. With good reason. All right, let's get right into the discussion tonight with our guest, Mark Kerman, the author of the new book, The Handbook for the Recently Haunted. And, Mark, I got to say, I think I get the joke on the title there. I get what you're alluding to. Brings me back to the Beetlejuice days.
Yeah, well, I looked and couldn't find a book that actually had any useful information. Usually it's a lot of ghost stories and paranormal romance stuff. Mm-hmm. And people have real hauntings, that they needed help with. I went on YouTube. I had a few of my own that started with this. And so I found some similarities and comparisons, and I started helping people that had their own problems. And so it seemed to work, every time I tried the techniques, there was there was something, or there wasn't something, or it was something explainable.
Well, it seems too like people need something that's accessible to them too when they're looking for a book like that. Too much of the stuff that is out there is written for the ghost hunter and not for the layperson. And so I think to make it, right from the beginning, seem very easily accessible to the reader, that's going to help out a lot as well.
Well, I looked and I saw a couple that were, I thought, okay, this is because I didn't want to repeat something that someone else had already done, and I went through every one Amazon, Barnes and Noble. There wasn't anything that had any, just a real serious book on this particular subject. And I was quite surprised. And I went all the way back. I couldn't find anything. It was just surprising that someone hadn't come out with it.
Well, what's your background in paranormal research?
Well, I have been in several ghost hunting groups, paranormal research groups, various investigations, going through YouTube, people wanting help, hundreds. And so, I would just do research on, what the situation with them was and what it really was. And another thing, I wanted to, I saw so many times that people would try to exorcise a ghost from a house. And, for me, ghosts are just real people. And I wouldn't want that happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
When you die, the last thing you should have to worry about is someone, calling you a demon and screaming and running away. And so almost always for, just for a selfish personal reason, but I just thought that needed to be clarified. And some other stuff in terminology that's in the book, if you'd like to ask, I'm not, I'd take questions,
Well, when I was reading the book, I was surprised to learn that when you're writing about some of these investigations, that there does seem to be a real jump toward the evil, toward the demonic. And I'm wondering if a lot of that has to do with the influence of some of these television shows we've seen in recent years, how they tend to lean toward that, probably more for ratings than anything else. But do you think that that's kind of trickled down and that's affected people's investigations out in the field?
Well, yeah, it really started with the religions, especially with the Catholic religion, who they profess that any ghost is just a demon in disguise. And so that's basically where that came from. I just can't go with the notion that just because you don't have a body anymore, you have to be a demon or evil. That just doesn't make sense.
But I think part of the problem too is, and you allude to this in the book as well, is that people do bring their own religious beliefs, both investigators and the client as well. And when those are kind of rubbing up against each other to some degree, that can cause a lot of problems.
Well, people want to use religion to try to get the ghosts out of their house. And whenever you have a ghost, an actual ghost in a house, they're really there. They're in the same room, the next room, but they're in the house. And you don't need a third party to talk to somebody. I don't need a third party to talk to you right now. You just communicate what you have to say, and depending on the tone, delivery, and the message, you may get a response.
Sorry, go ahead.
You might get them to leave, or it depends. Some people want ghosts as to hang around, almost like pets.
Mm-hmm.
And like I have in the book, and they, but see, the thing is that they keep them around just long enough to where they get freaked out by the situation, and then they want them to leave, but they've already given them a permission to stay, for some perceived permission, if you will. But that's always kind of funny to see that kind of situation too.
When you're dealing with that, though, when you're dealing with people who want to keep it, they want to keep the ghost around. I mean, do you have to kind of advise them, of what's going to happen if that's the case? I mean, it's one thing if it starts off and it's benign, and there's nothing really going on, but do they understand the fact that it could escalate, and it could escalate to the point where it might become uncomfortable to live with it?
Oh, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to. You have a lot of pub owners, beauty salons, that kind of thing. Sometimes you have people in the private homes, and you try to say something like that to them, and it falls on deaf ears. But it's nice to know that at least they're not suffering with something that may be bothering them.
I do think, though, that there probably are some cases where, and I know that it's rare, but there probably are some cases where there is something evil. I won't say a demon, but there is something that's negative and that has malicious intent. And a lot of times we know that that can kind of disguise itself as a friendly ghost, a Casper, if you will.
You know, I mean, demons, you can just go to any jail or prison and see plenty of evil spirits there incarnate. And but you run into a whole lot of different attitudes and emotions with ghosts. They everybody has their own personality, and sometimes you get good ghosts, and they're more. People might see them as angelic, you know. So, and then there's benign ghosts. Just the average run-of-the-mill, they mind their own business and might make some noise or something, but they really don't really bother somebody. But usually when it comes to a ghost trying to make their presence known, if the survival instinct within the individual person kicks in, and here we go, you know, they get scared, and all of a sudden, whoever it is demonic.
Yeah, well, I think that's the hard part, is that people still to this day can't separate the fear from the ghost experience, and the fear, of course, is more just for the fact that it's unknown and it's almost unbelievable to them.
Well, people just want to. They've got the survival instinct with them, and people. We're not going to talk about death. You know, the way. That's the whole problem. Is that when people die, they're left in a vacuum, and they don't know what to do aside from religious situations. But it's I have in my book. You cross over at your own volition. It's not something. I have the transitional staging existence, which is where you go. You basically are in the physical world, but you're incarnate. And so you cross over depending on the situations you have. If you have unfinished business, guilt, that kind of thing. It can be a veritable mixed bag, but that's basically the process to the thing.
And it's important to note too, and you mention it frequently in the book, that when entity that's in that transitional staging existence, when it crosses over and it enters into the great beyond, that's something that no human, at least in your research, has ever seen. And so that's we're basically telling the spirit, if we're trying to help it cross over, to move into the light, and we're kind of just assuming that that's what you got to do based on what we've heard.
Well, I don't. It depends. It depends. Some people, they want the like a family member to cross over in their own time. They don't want to rush anybody off. That kind of thing. It's a natural process. Everybody dies. Yeah, everybody knows that, and everybody crosses over eventually. Ghosts don't last forever. Ghosts eventually. Every report of ghosts, almost always has an ending. They haven't seen anything. Some of these ghost tours you go on, no one's seen anything for years, and so you can basically be a ghost for a while, but not forever.
Well, a part of that though is you got to think that if there is activity happening, and it does happen so infrequently that we're able to perceive it, that it's going to seem like to us it's been going on for a number of years, but in actuality it hasn't really had the strength to manifest for all those years. It's just been little bits and pieces over that time. And then of course the other problem being, I'm sure to spirits that are in that transitional staging existence, time doesn't really have the same barriers that it has for us.
Well, usually people cross over within 3 days. That's kind of the timeline. People, the second day that you're a ghost, that's the phasing day. to where you can say, well, no, it's not a dream. And so you eventually have to, make a decision, based on what you know, and how you feel.
What do you how do you feel about the idea of visitation hauntings, where a ghost is not always in that environment 24/7, but can sometimes come and go just to revisit a location that was important to them in life?
From every case that I've seen, to some degree, sometimes the ghost will follow, but it's basically location specific, and the ghost will just take over, basically. Well, not really take over, but they'll inhabit a house until they're ready to go.
Well, one of the questions that's popped up in the chat room is somebody who's familiar with your work, Mark, says that you refer to yourself as a parapsychologist, and they're just wondering about the process of how one becomes a parapsychologist.
Well, there's no license involved with that. You study. It's just a study of the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Every psychologist, I've got a degree in psychology, every psychologist is just focusing on the study of, nobody knows everything about the brain or human behavior. So it's just the study of the paranormal, and it can mean, it doesn't have to mean ghosts, psychics, UFOs, anything paranormal. But it depends on what you're specific on too. Ghosts are all I do. Some people, UFOs are all they do. So you're a parapsychologist in basically the field that you're specialized in.
See, I like to, at least in my opinion, I look at it from the approach of if you're a parapsychologist and you call yourself a parapsychologist, that basically means that that's the approach you're applying to your paranormal investigation, to your research. You're coming from that, psychological background instead of being a paranormal investigator where you're out there more for the experience. I don't think it's a necessarily a degree title as some people might think that it is.
Well, there are some universities that do give degrees in parapsychology, in particular Duke and JFK University. One particular person that I know is a degreed parapsychologist. So,
but at the same time, I think that you can, you don't have to have you don't have to have that degree in it necessarily to apply that title to yourself. But I think it reflects more your approach than it does maybe your education.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Mark?
Well, that's basically what it is. It depends on what you. There is no, like I said, there is no licensure on this kind of thing. It's that's the whole thing. I'm not into UFOs too much. Psychics. I'm not a psychic. I don't know people's middle name, that kind of thing. So you just have to pick your field.
Better to pick your field than to pick your nose. That's the way I say it. Well, we've got a few minutes left here before we have to take a break for the news. But when we come back, we'll get more into the book, The Handbook for the Recently Haunted, and I'm going to make sure that I don't call it The Handbook for the Recently Deceased. But we'll talk about more about the book. Why don't you tell everybody where they can get it, though?
You can get it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. It's also on Kindle. And if you look on Amazon, it's got the look inside the pages, and it's about a third of the book in there. It's got the whole glossary terms. It's got the whole beginning and middle. If you're interested in ghosts at all, this book has the terminology, and every instance that I had with investigations dealt with something that was in this book. There's only so many different scenarios. People will hear things, people see things, and then what do they see and things like that. But there's just just so much you can. It's all included with the book.
And one of the good things about having a book like this, especially if you can have it in digital form, is that you can take it with you. If you're a ghost hunter, if you're a paranormal investigator, you can bring it with you. You can put it right in the tool bag, and it's a lot easier to read at night on a Nook color than it is trying to thumb through an actual hard copy book.
Once you start reading it, you'll understand the terminology, and it just becomes you see what kind of problem you have. This is a handbook for the recently haunted. It's some people have never had any experiences, and they may not relate to some of these things. But generally, if you've had an experience with something like this, it's in the book. I haven't had a single experience where something wasn't in the book, and that's quite unusual. And this is through hundreds of investigations online and several investigations in person.
All right. Well, like I said, we are coming up on the news break, so we do have to take a break right now. When we come back on the other side, we'll tell you really quickly about a new show that's debuting that takes a little bit of a different twist on the paranormal, and it's something that I'm very excited about. And I might even have to learn Spanish to watch this show. Although I think it's in English. But we'll talk about all that and more. We'll also tell you about another show that was already on tonight with a friend of the program, but it'll be on again later on. And we'll get more with Mark Kerman on the Handbook for the Recently Haunted. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with more here on Spooky South Coast.
Your home for news, talk, and sports. First with local news, talk, and sports. This is WBSM New Bedford, Citadel Broadcasting, AM 1420, WBSM.
I'm Daria Albinger. No 1 a.m. debt ceiling vote in the Senate, but there's plenty happening late tonight on Capitol Hill. We're live with ABC's Vic Ratner.
Daria, Senate Leader Harry Reid just minutes ago postponed a key procedural vote for tonight, saying negotiations on a debt crisis solution are underway.
There are many elements to be finalized, and there's still a distance to go.
ABC News has learned the outlines of a deal being negotiated included almost $3 trillion in spending cuts. President Obama had insisted the package include a debt ceiling increase that's big enough to get the government through 2012. Daria.
ABC's Vic Ratner live on Capitol Hill, and with less than 3 days and 1 hour until a government default, it could come in the nick of time.
America's international friends and indeed its frenemies are concerned. They say that it is damaging. They call it irresponsible what's happening in Washington, especially China, which holds the most U.S. debt, is calling for a resolution to this. And a key investment manager says to me that the rest of the world is stunned, bewildered, more than a little worried, and that the damage has already been done. It is already more than a flesh wound.
ABC's Christiane Amanpour, host of This Week. The black boxes have been recovered from a Caribbean Airlines jet that crashed upon landing at an airport in Guyana. The flight en route from New York skidded on a slick runway. ABC's Lisa Stark says this kind of crash is not uncommon.
It happened in Jamaica in 2009 and Little Rock, Arkansas in 1999. There, 11 died. Luckily, most of these accidents are not fatal. The black boxes have been recovered in the Guyana crash, and the National Transportation Safety Board will help figure out what went wrong.
There were no fatalities in this morning's crash. Single-engine plane and a floater plane collided in mid-air near Trapper Creek, Alaska. At least 3 people killed. You're listening to ABC News.
I'm sure you're thinking, boy, I'd like to pay less for my car insurance, but switching seems like a lot of work. All the hassle and whatnot. Well, I'm here to tell you that is simply not the case. Geico makes it so easy to switch and start saving money straight away, without getting buried in a ton of paperwork. You know, that actually happened to me once. Literally, I was buried under my income taxes for 6 days. Haunting, really.
For a free rate quote, visit geico.com. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Not all oil change deals are created equal. Case in point, right now at Advance Auto Parts, a 5+ quarts jug of Castrol GTX conventional motor oil and filter are just $17.49 after mail-in rebate. That includes an oil filter with a value up to $11.99. At other major retailers, the value of their included filter may be much less. You could end up having to pay more just to get the filter you need. Better value at Advance Auto Parts. One more way, service is our best part. See store for details.
The debt ceiling may be front and center on Capitol Hill, but there's a quiet battle in Congress over what's known as mountaintop removal mining, and it does just what the name says. It shears off the top of a mountain in search of coal. Companies say they're not doing permanent damage to the land. Environmentalists beg to differ. More from ABC's Jim Sciutto in Blair, West Virginia.
500 peaks and counting literally blown up since the 1970s, all for the coal deep underground. When environmental campaigner Robert F. Kennedy Jr. saw it filming a new documentary called The Last Mountain, he was overwhelmed.
If you try to blow up a mountain in the Berkshires or the Adirondacks or the Catskills or in Utah, you would be put in jail.
West Virginia Congressman Nick Rahal defends mountaintop removal.
What it means is jobs, and what it means is keeping our lights on.
Jim Sciutto, ABC News, Blair, West Virginia.
The Philippine Coast Guard and fishermen rescued more than 140 people who were on board a passenger ship that dangerously tilted in choppy waters in the central Philippines. Coast Guard spokesman says the ship was on an overnight trip when it began to tilt to its right or starboard side about dawn. The cause of the problem isn't known. The daughter of actor Al Pacino under arrest. She's accused of drunken driving. Police say 21-year-old Julie Pacino was stopped at a traffic checkpoint in Manhattan early today. Her blood alcohol level over the legal limit. This is ABC News.
Trying to sell your old car? Instead, donate your vehicle to Heritage for the Blind. Pickup is free and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-895-8035. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats, whether they run or not. Donate your vehicle and you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to over 50 locations. Call 1-800-895-8035. That's 1-800-895-8035.
Daria Albinger, ABC.
This heavyweight bout is about to begin. The challenger wears white trunks with a blue stripe, and the champ is wearing, looks like an examination gown from the doctor's office. And from the back, we can... Ooh, that's not pretty. Champ, what's with the crazy getup?
I've got to take care of my family.
Yeah, so?
Well, when you love your family, you got to go in and get those important medical screenings. A lot of potentially deadly diseases can be treated if you catch them in time.
So you wear the examination gown because...
Because I'm a real man. Real men take care of their families and get those tests. Real men wear gowns.
Okay, champ, good luck. Here we go. The champ's not wasting any time. Oh, it's over. This fight is over. Champ, you barely broke a sweat. Any words for your fans out there?
Remember, go to ahrq.gov for a list of the tests they need to get and when to get them.
What was that web address again?
ahrq.gov. And remember, real men wear gowns.
Go to ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, AHRQ, and the Ad Council.
AM 1420, where every other Thursday at 1, it's Jose Matos of the Advanced Financial Group, answering any and all your questions about the best way to secure your financial future. Money Matters, every other Thursday at 1 p.m. on AM 1420, WBSM.
Is your kitchen and bathroom looking a little tired? Is it time for a change? Where do you begin? Well, how about with the experienced team at Fairhaven Lumber's Kitchen and Baths Full-Service Design Center.
I am Mike Bergeron.
And I'm Melissa Bergeron at Fairhaven Lumber's Kitchen and Bath Center.
Trust us at Fairhaven Lumber with 25 years experience to complete your project on time and on budget.
Visit us at Fairhaven Lumber's Kitchen and Bath Center.
Stop by Fairhaven Lumber and talk to us.
Your full-service design center at 120 Alden Road, Fairhaven.
It's your Grand Slam at Fall River Ford. Bases are loaded and you're up. Honesty is on first, service is on second, and our MVP price is on third. And you're up. Out of the park. You've scored big once again. Every time you're at Fall River Ford, you'll feel like a home run king. Hi, folks. Fernando Garcia, your friend in the business from Fall River Ford, inviting you to come down and join us in the excitement. Batter up!
Hamill, Waxler, Allen, and Collins wants you to know.
Our state does not require an insurance company to offer you all you are entitled to receive
even if their insured is responsible for your injury. Every insurance company in our state has law firms available to help them defend claims.
Hamill, Waxler, Allen, and Collins, a tradition of helping people. We're bringing the facts to light. Offices in New Bedford, Fall River, and Taunton.
Do you keep asking people to repeat what they've just said? Are you hearing only part of what someone is saying? For many of us baby boomers, Beltone New England can help us. Call the husband-wife team of Peter and Darlene Vieira at 508-999-3322. They'll treat you just like their own family member. Beltone New England, across from the Dartmouth Walmart in the St. Anne's Credit Union Plaza. You'll be amazed to hear what you're missing.
1 in 12 children in Uganda is left alone. This year, Citadel Broadcasting is supporting the worthwhile cause of Ray of Hope in Africa to build a children's home, medical center, and school. Every dollar you give will help a child in need whose only chance for a better life is through your contributions. For more information about Ray of Hope in Africa and how you can help, go to rayofhopeinafrica.org. Ray of Hope in Africa is a division of Humanitarian Hands Foundation.
Oh, God. It can't be.
We do have a system.
I'm sure I haven't the faintest idea what you're talking about.
Turn on all your lights, lock the doors, and pull down the shades. Spooky Southcoast is back.
It's boring. You're boring, everybody. Quit boring everyone.
All right, welcome back. Hour number 2 of Spooky South Coast. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa and science advisor Matt Moniz. And we are broadcasting on Spooky TV. There we go. Perfect. That's a great shot. Kind of popped back up a little bit. That's fine. We can go with that. Broadcasting on Spooky TV on SpookySouthCoast.com. Oh, my God. It just moved on its own. Oh, it's bouncing around. No kidding. Paranormal. All right, we are broadcasting on Spooky TV at SpookySouthCoast.com, and of course on the air here at WBSM. You can send us all your questions and comments during the course of the week. You can either email us spookycrew at SpookySouthCoast.com, or you can call the new Boo line, 508-444-BOO1, 508-444-2661. If you text us to that number, we'll put you on our text list for all our text announcements. I say text a lot, I guess. And then you can also leave us a voicemail on that line as well if you have any questions for us, you need to get in touch with us for anything. If you have something you want to come on and promote, that's the way to do it. Reach us on that. We can take some of that audio, play it on the air if we need to. I actually received a text earlier tonight that said that somebody saw the ghost of Jimmy Superfly Snuka in Onset today. So I don't know. It's just a bag of bones that used to be Jimmy Superfly Snuka. And we'll text you back maybe. Who knows? So again, 508-444-2661. That's the Boo line to get in touch with us all week long. And Chris Balzano wants you to email us at spookycrew@SpookySouthCoast.com if you want to get involved with our annual Bridgewater Triangle investigation show. It's coming up on August 27th. This year's focus is on the March of Anawan. We've already heard back from a number of groups over the course of the week that are going to help us take part in that. If you go to SpookySouthCoast.com and click on the Bridgewater Triangle Project icon at the bottom of the page, you'll find out more about it. And, of course, you can get in touch with us there to let us know that you want to take part. You don't have to be a seasoned investigator either. Well, if you're a first-time investigator, if you have a casual interest in this and you want to get out there and experience it for yourself, feel free to get a hold of us. We'll find somewhere where we can put you. There's plenty of ground to be covered. Just a few other quick announcements we want to make you aware of. Earlier this evening on the Style Network, Maureen Hancock's program was on, Psychic in Suburbia. It's going to be rebroadcasting again, I believe, at midnight, and I'm sure a couple more times during the course of the week. So if you want to check that out, we were hoping to have Maureen on to promote it, but things happen so fast with that show. I mean, she's out promoting the book, and then all of a sudden the show is coming on TV, so that's on the Style Network. And then I got an email about an interesting program that's going to be on Moon2 TV, MUN2, MUN the number 2.TV, and it's called From Beyond. And this is pretty interesting. It premieres tomorrow night at 10 p.m. I believe you can watch the first episode actually right up there on MUN2.TV. There's a deep respect for and belief in the supernatural world, and it has become part of the Latin American culture, passed down from generation to generation. Armed with paranormal detectors and electronic devices, the From Beyond team leads viewers into the homes of Latino families and other locations that are experiencing paranormal activity. Through personal interviews and chilling tales, real people's true stories are being uncovered. And what's interesting about that show is they actually take that, Latin American folklore of the paranormal, and they incorporate that into their investigation. So it's not like some of these more high-tech scientific shows where they kind of put all that stuff out the window. They actually take a lot of that mythology and folklore and bring it into it. So it should be a very interesting series. And again, it's on mun2.tv, moon2.tv. And we're hoping to talk to some of those investigators in the coming weeks here on the show. So, but for now, let's get right back into the discussion with Mark Kerman. He's the author for the Handbook for the Recently Haunted. And Mark, as a parapsychologist and as the author of this book, let me ask you, what are your thoughts about bringing the mythology back into the investigation, bringing the folklore of ghosts into things? Because you've been very clear-cut about what your beliefs in ghosts are in this book. Do you think that there's still room for the ghost story aspect?
Well, I mean, a lot of people, they put all kinds of stuff into the ghost situation, but you basically have a ghost or ghosts in a particular dwelling or place, or you don't, or it's something naturally caused or something like that.
All right, and let me throw out the phone numbers again if anybody wants to get involved with the discussion. 508-996-0500. 1-877-996-1420. We invite you all to call in. You can also email spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com or text them in at 508-444-2661. When you were putting together this book, and you said that you went through a number of YouTube ghost clips, I get the sense from the book that you actually had to throw quite a bit of what you were finding out the window yourself, because a lot of it you could kind of say right away, this is just somebody's attempt at cheap special effects.
Well, yeah, a lot of. You could basically tell. You'd send them an email, and you'd see what they'd say. And sometimes, a lot of times, it would be something non-serious, or it would be some kind of optical kind of thing. I was just specifically looking for people that actually had problems with hauntings and needed help. And then they'd say, then we'd go, as soon as I, discovered they were serious, then we'd go into what kind of activity and occurrences they had, and whether, it made sense that they, had a ghost in the house or they didn't.
I like when you're watching some of these videos, and I know that you said you don't pay too much attention to the UFO aspect of it, but there's so many UFO videos that are so obviously faked, but I like to see the amount of work that they put into it and just how much better it is than some of the big sci-fi movies of the 50s and 60s. People are making on their computer more convincing evidence than they were putting in films.
Well, yeah. And, that's the whole real problem, is that you've got a lot of the hot Hollywood stuff, and people make fun of UFO and ghost stuff, and it just takes science that much longer to get to be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think part of the appeal, though, of being able to put stuff up on YouTube is if you do have what you think is legitimate paranormal activity that you've captured on film, is you have that wide scope to be able to get people to comment on their beliefs and what they think and their own theories, and at the same time you get to remain anonymous. And I assume that in the families that you were talking to and the investigations that you conducted in the course of putting together this book, a lot of people probably still request anonymity. They still don't want to have their names associated with ghostly activity.
Well, a lot of times people, especially family members who are told about ghost stories, so they think, it's their imagination, or anybody who's had any kind of paranormal experience whatsoever has to be delusional. And that's a lot of the reason people want the anonymity, and I don't see a real problem with somebody actually sensing and observing something that may be really there. And even if it's not, there's a lot of natural occurrences that can cause the same thing. And it doesn't really matter anyway, because it's a real problem for some people, and no matter what the problem is, there's usually some type of answer that'll solve it. So, just asking for help doesn't really make you insane.
Especially when so many times, it can be debunked and it can be, discovered that there's a non-paranormal cause. It's almost like, people are apologetic for the fact that they think that it's paranormal, and sometimes that doesn't even turn out to be the case. Most times.
A lot of times they're so disappointed that there's just something naturally going on, and I've come into a house and I said, plug this, and this after the research team does its thing, and then I'll say, just said on one investigation, I'm done with it, just for a minute, and they said, oh, you what do you mean? What do you mean? It's like you have to, once you get to a certain point in a thing, you have to decide whether there's something real or not, and if there's something that's just natural, I don't really care that they're disappointed. I just care that the client has found some type of answer to their problem.
Mm-hmm.
And besides that client joined the group 2 weeks later.
Oh, that's always, yeah. Well, let me ask you this, because this is something that we don't talk a lot about on this show. I mean, we talk about paranormal investigation quite frequently, but one of the things that we never really talk about is the idea of helping spirits cross over. I know I don't do that when I investigate. I know that Matt Moniz doesn't do that when he investigates. Andy, I'm not sure. No, he. So it's something that we're not really familiar with. We do work with some people that do have those abilities and do have that approach, but it's not something that we have on our radar. How important is it to add that element to paranormal investigation? Do you have to be able to help a spirit cross over, or can you just go out and document the activity?
Well, I mean, some just document the activity. 90% are better just document the activity. To help a ghost cross over, unless you know who the ghost is, and that's very important, and what their problem was, the ghost knows what's going on in the first maybe 48 hours, after death. And what you tell them is something that they already know. You want to offer some type of forgiveness that might work, but otherwise, it's up to them to cross over on their own time. And helping, like the Ghost Whisperer show, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody really has that type of, being able to one-on-one, hear everything, but, you can just tell them your wishes. That's the only thing I can say, is that if you sense a ghost in the house, some kind of spirit, let them know that you know they're there, and basically, if you don't want them there, just say that their presence is making you uncomfortable, and you'd like them to leave.
See, I almost think that it's, and I don't mean any disrespect to yourself or to anybody else who has this approach, but I don't really think that people can necessarily help ghosts cross over. I think it's kind of somewhat arrogant of us to think that we can show them the way. I'm going to guess that when you pass from this coil to the next, whether you're in that transitional stage, as you mentioned before, or not, you're going to have a little bit more awareness. Your eyes are going to be opened up a little bit more than they were in your corporal body. And so if it's a matter of just needing to move yourself on, I think they're going to kind of do it in their own time. And I don't think us telling them to go, I don't think it's like telling my dog to go lay down. And I think what will happen is, if you express that you are uncomfortable with their presence there, they'll just make it so that you don't realize they're there. But they're still going to just go over in their own time. I mean, that's just my soapbox.
Sometimes it depends on what you say. It depends on how it's received. Sometimes the activity will increase. Sometimes it'll dissipate to nothing. As you say, they'll start hiding out. But eventually, the activity is going to resurface. If they're still there, there's going to be the surprise haunting. Sometimes they're going about, especially if they're new ghosts, they'll go about their way. They might go in through one door into the other. They're still electromagnetic, so they still carry some type of energy. So the doors closing on their own, can just be a ghost going from one room to the other, just not paying attention to what they're really doing. And so I guess that's how that works.
Well, with me, and at least in what I've seen, in these different approaches, I think that the helping of the crossing over is more beneficial to the living, for sure, than it might be to the spirits. I mean, it definitely, you can see when there's a allegedly successful crossover, you can see the relief in the client's face. You can see the fact that they feel now that they've gotten their house back.
Well, it goes both ways. A ghost crossing over, that helps. I'd much rather help both parties, but really, when you help a spirit that's in a crisis situation, and they actually do go over, the homeowners, opinion on that. I don't. It's nice that they experience some kind of relief and satisfaction that the ghost is gone. But I think it's more important that the ghost crosses over eventually.
Well, let me throw out the numbers again: 1-877-996-1420, 508-996-0500. Also, email spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com and text at 508-444-2661. I mean, Andrew, what's your...
I sat in on one... I sat on one case in Pawtucket, Rhode Island with Father Bob Bailey. I wasn't really part of the investigation. I was just there to observe. And the family kept talking about, what was going on in the house. And they immediately, the guy's wife was jumping to the demonic. She said she'd smelled like a burning sulfur smell, woke up to the sound of a bang in the house. And as I was interviewing her husband, found out the house belonged to his family and that his brother back in the 1970s had committed suicide with a rifle. And the sulfur smell and the bang happened both at the same hour in the middle of the night, and the wife was seeing this male silhouette in her bedroom. Well, the more we put two and two together, we decided it was the guy's brother who committed suicide in the house next to what's that now their bedroom, was in the house poking around because they were doing renovations in the house. And Father Bob Bailey and another Catholic priest, I believe his name was Mike, they told this guy, you're not going to be judged, pass on, go to the light. And I was given an email by the homeowners a few days later, and they said that all this activity was gone. And to this day, Father Bob says the house is at peace. So even though I'm not the kind of person to tell somebody to pass on or tell a ghost where to go, this was one of those cases where I think it did help both the family, the homeowners, and this lost spirit who had tragically committed suicide over a girl.
I mean, I'm happy to admit that I'm wrong if that's the case.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, when you are helping these spirits cross over, I mean, what kind of affirmation do you get from them that they have crossed over? Do you find that in your evidence you actually can pinpoint that moment when there might be maybe some EVP or some EMF spikes or something that kind of gives an indication that portal has opened and the spirit has passed on?
Right. Well, usually when you can usually tell when a ghost is crossing over, there's like almost a mist in the air. It's just like just rained or something, outside. But there'll be like a little mist, and it's a fresh smelling smell. And the thing is, I don't really help ghosts cross over. That's what the book really says is that the homeowner, renter, or even squatter that happens to be a living individual in the house is really got to do the communication. If I came over to a person's house and told their brother, you got to go, they're not going to listen to me as well as they're going to listen to another family member. And so that's my main thing. I just like to let the person involved get in contact because they're there all the time. There's some people I saw in the thing that people help people cross over, but they don't do it all the time, or they can't do it all the time, and that's because the ghost will cross over when they want to cross over.
I guess though, when like you said, as long as it's the clients taking back their house and they're feeling empowered by it, it's all in whatever the end result is. So if the activity ceases, then as far as I'm concerned, it works. What happens though when you're dealing with somebody who does think that they've helped the spirit pass over and then it comes back? Do you find that when you get these return hauntings that people are starting to question whether or not it worked to begin with?
Well, I mean, I've never really heard of a return haunting. Usually, if you have it's just another occurrence until the ghost actually leaves the TSC, transitional staging position, I call it the TSC, and crosses over.
I mean, I've heard of some I've heard of some pretty nasty returns. They kind of don't like it when you tell them what to do.
Oh, are you talking about coming back from like the spirit world kind of thing, or because I've never heard of someone coming back from the spirit world. Usually, it's just they're just here.
I just think more along the lines of they feel they've ended the haunt, they've helped the spirit move on, and it turns out that wasn't the case. And usually it gets a little upset that you tried to move it along and says, "No, I'm here to stay."
Well, it's like everything, It's up to the personal decision of the particular person, and the problems that they have. If they've got some kind of guilt issue, they've got some forgiveness thing. If they don't feel worthy enough to cross over because they think, well, they're not, worthy of getting into heaven, that kind of thing. But everybody does at their own time. It's just a natural process, and it's just I've never seen a book that or any written thing to where it says that this is you cross over when you cross over. It's always you've got to cross over immediately or you don't get in, or some kind of religious thing like that. But it just seems like such a normal and just matter of fact kind of thing, and it was just interesting not seeing it anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's still just a guess, though. Come on. I mean, until somebody actually does it, until somebody crosses over into the spirit world and then comes back to describe it, we're kind of just making an educated guess. I mean, we need Kiefer Sutherland to put himself under. But you have a section in the book, the Handbook for the Recently Haunted, where you discuss a lot of the different equipment that can be used in paranormal investigation. And what's your take on all that equipment? What's your take on the idea of the science of the paranormal now? It seems like, if you don't have the latest toys and you're not considered a legitimate ghost hunting group, it seems like investigative groups now, they have to have those thermal cameras. They have to have all these things that they see on TV, or else they feel that they're not doing the job right.
Well, I mean, people if they have a haunting in their house, it. As far as the equipment, it's nice to know if there's any EMFs coming from electrical sources, natural sources, underground streams, and stuff like that. The photographic video equipment that they have, it's all part of a big picture in determining if you have something that might be truly legitimate or something that might be of a natural cause.
And that's where it's lost, though. I think a lot of groups forget the fact that equipment should be for the debunking process, not for the proving process.
Well, it's a puzzle. It's a puzzle, and the more pieces you have to the puzzle, the more you know what you have. It's important, and a lot of paranormal groups are free. They'll come over, they'll do their investigation. Now, they might not tell you exactly what to do, other than maybe you need to take your home back, quote unquote. But the investigative process and the evidence that they collect is very valuable, especially to me. If I'm going in cold to a house, I and then the varied opinions you get. Very valuable information.
And one of the things that you recommend in the book, too, is that those who are investigating, those who are experiencing the paranormal should trust in their senses. And I think that's a lot of times when people are faced with the paranormal for the first time, they start to question whether or not they're really seeing or feeling or having the sensations that they think they're having. And it seems like you advise them to just trust in that and to go with it.
Well, to some degree, I kind of like, outside intervention. Sometimes it depends on what you have, but a lot of times you don't need to go through that if you have something, activity that is clear cut, and there's nothing to guess about. You can tell you're being constantly day after day or every other day, something like that, and it's an oppression.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually what you can usually tell. If you can trust your own feelings like that. Sometimes people take a one-time occurrence and blow it up into something, to big. But usually people can usually tell on their own. And when they do sense presence, you determine, who it is and, what you want to do. And, the choices section in the book. And that's really all it is. And some people, they've got family members, and they don't want to exorcise them from the house, if you will. And so, it's just a mixed bag.
All right. Well, we are talking with Mark Kerman, the author of the Handbook for the Recently Haunted. You can get it pretty much everywhere you get books online. Don't go to Borders.com, though, because there's not much time left there. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more with Mark. We'll also take your calls, 1-877-996-1420, 508-996-0500. Email spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com and jump in the chat room on Spooky TV at spookysouthcoast.com. You can put your questions in there as well. So we'll be right back with more here on Spooky South Coast.
Oh.
AM 1420 WBSM with a brand new show every other Wednesday from 1 till 2. It's the MIH Radio Show with hosts Jeremiah and Franchise. Interesting guests, local events and happenings, the arts, social media, and more. The MIH Radio Show is sponsored, in part, by Advanced Eye Centers. Advanced Eye Centers, focused on your results. The MIH Radio Show, every other Wednesday afternoon at 1 on AM 1420 WBSM.
We are the shadow mental health system in America, unheralded and unsung.
Dr. Joyce Berland of the National Alliance on Mental Illness says that families provide 50% of the care for people with mental illness.
And the families are the ones that are, taking to medication, taking to this, taking to that, going after their family members in jail, trying to get them out of jail. It's a real firing line that families live.
Many times, families feel isolated.
Support groups have been spontaneous reactions to that isolation. Support is a human necessity.
Be a moral support for families dealing with mental illness. For more, visit the website shadowvoices.com. For free information on families coping with mental illness, call 800-999-3534. A message from the Mennonite Churches and Faith and Values Media.
AM 1420 WBSM and the Zeitarian presents Postcards from Heaven with the comedian medium Maureen Hancock. It's Thursday, August 18th at 7:30 at New Bedford Zeitarian Theater. It's the most unique family reunion ever. Maureen Hancock is the author of the new best-selling book, The Medium Next Door. Tickets for Postcards from Heaven at the Z are $25. Buy them early for the best seats. Available at the box office on Purchase Street, online at Zeitarian.org, or by phone at 508-994-2900. Postcards from Heaven with Maureen Hancock, Thursday, August 18th at the Zeitarian with AM 1420 WBSM.
There's always a moment
the moment you decide to get involved, to get engaged.
This is my
American story.
When you teach someone to read, they have a sense of self-fulfillment.
Seeing family, friends fall victim of gang violence, drugs, it definitely made me want to serve.
There was a hole in the ground, and by the time we left, there was a house.
I realized that these kids were not getting a meal.
It is so easy to give back.
I don't have a lot of money to help people, but I do have something. I have time.
You can give any skill you have.
I see a great need in my community.
Just imagine how strong a society we could be.
This is Barack Obama. Every one of us has a role to play in making our communities and our countries stronger. Discover yours. Help us continue to make a difference in the life of our nation. Go to serve.gov and find the opportunity that works for you. And this message is brought to you by the Corporation for National and Community Service.
Hi, I'm Josh Holloway. Growing up near the Great Smoky Mountains, the national parks have always been a part of my life. They're living, breathing monuments to our nation's history and culture and need our care and support. I can't imagine a day when these natural treasures may not be around to enjoy, but years of underfunding, pollution, and climate change have taken their toll. So join me and the National Parks Conservation Association in ensuring our national parks are available for future generations. For more, visit preservetheparks.com.
Scam artists are trying to trick seniors into giving them their Medicare number.
I heard that. This happened to my friend. A man came to her door wanting to sign her up for the new Medicare program. Well, when she got her Medicare summary notice, it was full of charges for services she hadn't received. So I did something about it. I joined the Senior Medicare Patrol, where I teach others to protect their Medicare numbers, review statements to spot false charges, and report fraud. Call 800-892-0890 or visit stopmedicarefraud.gov.
Me? I started smoking when I was 13. I always thought when the time came, I could quit. No problem. Then at 28, I tried to go cold turkey, and I found out how hard it really was. I made it all day without a smoke. Right until I met up with the guys. But I learned something that night. In fact, every time I tried to quit, there were more than a few, I learned a little more about what worked and what didn't work for me. And when I realized that I wasn't alone, that most people don't quit on their first or second attempt, I knew there was still hope. Today, I'm an ex-smoker. My only advice is to never, ever give up trying to quit.
If you're trying to quit smoking, the American Lung Association is here to help every step of the way. Visit quitterinU.org for tools, tips, and stories from smokers we've helped to finally quit for good. The American Lung Association. We support the Quitter in You at quitterinU.org.
Hi, my name's Bob. Hi, Bob. I see this ad on TV. Says I can reduce my debt by 50%. I call, they told me to stop paying my bills, stop talking to my creditors. They'd take care of everything.
I gave them thousands, but most of it went to their fees.
Getting out of debt is neither quick nor easy. There are those who will tell you anything to win your trust.
I'm more in debt now because the fees and interest on my cards kept piling up.
Talk to your creditors directly, or to find a nonprofit agency near you, visit debtadvice.org. This has been a public service message.
What I am about to say will shake the very foundation of every medical precept you hold dear. We have entered the realm of the supernatural.
Turn on all your lights, lock the doors, and pull down the shades. Spooky South Coast is back.
There we are back. Tim Weisberg here, along with the silent assassin Matt Costa, science advisor Matt Moniz, and sitting in with us tonight is Andrew Lake of Greenville Paranormal Research.
Howdy.
How's it going over there, Andy?
It's doing fine. Well, I've just been waiting for a moment to chirp in here.
All right, well, we've got plenty of time left in the show, and you can do so as well. 508-996-0500, 1-877-996-1420. During the break, between the chat room and the text messages coming in, we've got people that are interested in joining us on August 27th for the Bridgewater Triangle Investigation Show. So make sure you email us, spookycrew@spookysouthcoast.com. No matter how you got a hold of us, please send us that email, because we need that to keep track of everything, because Chris and I are not organized people. Well, Chris is, but I am definitely not. So we need to make sure that you send us that email. Let us know all your contact info, your availability, where you think you can go, and we'll plot it all out from there. But the Bridgewater Triangle Project section is up on SpookySouthcoast.com. You can click on it right from the main page to find out more. So it's going to be a very exciting, very interactive night.
Now, is that going to be basically just ghosts, or is it all weird things in the triangle?
It can be anything.
So is it the idea of maybe even groups who are investigating private homes within the triangle? Maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're open to all of it. Chris is the man with the plan when it comes to this, and he's focusing on the March of Anawan this year, but of course we're open to all areas of the triangle and all the activity of the triangle as well. So, but because it is the anniversary of Anawan, that's why we're going to be focusing on that. And I talked to Manny and Kristen from Bridgewater Triangle Research. They're definitely game for joining us in some fashion that night. I know Bay State Paranormal is all aboard. Dart will probably be joining us as well. We're trying to get Dave to come down, so hopefully Low Battery Dave will be down as well. And if he does, he's got to swing by the studio while he's down this neck of the woods, because we need to hang out in person. So, all right, let's get back into the discussion with our guest, Mark Kerman. His book is The Handbook for the Recently Haunted, and if you are recently haunted, you might want to pick that up. And, even if you're a ghost, you might want to pick it up and read it as well, because, it sounds like I'm being facetious here, but you get a better understanding of not only what it's like for the spirit, the people to have to deal with the spirit, but you get an idea of what it must be like for the spirit too. And I think, the fact, Mark, that you kind of focus on both sides, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it seems like it can almost be a calming source for both sides.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to look at it from the ghost view too, because if you don't, then you don't know what problems they have, and you don't know whether if they're going to cross over or not when you'd like them to. So that's a good point.
And when you were putting together all the different aspects of this book, and you focus on the idea of different places that could have activity, and you also focus on different activity that can occur in places, it seems like you have to be consciously aware when you're doing that of the fact that some of these places that you write about just naturally have that haunted feel. Like you talk about abandoned buildings, and you mentioned the fact that even though they are abandoned, there still could be plenty of activity going on there. And I wonder, don't you think, though, that to some degree for the activity to be there has to be someone to perceive it?
Well, it's like a tree falling.
Exactly. Yeah.
If there's somebody there, there's somebody there. It's really simple. I mean, there's nothing really complicated. If a place has something there, something's there. If there's not, if somebody perceives something and there's really something natural, then that can be a point too.
Well, Mark, how we've been talking about the idea of helping ghosts pass on. When people have got in touch with you to say, hey, I've got this haunting. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know what's going on. How often do you find people wanting you to give them advice about ending the haunting, as compared to, could you please come in here and see if I'm nuts, because my friends and family think I'm nuts? How many people are just looking for confirmation of the haunting, as opposed to people saying, can you get rid of it?
Well, I think everybody wants to know whether if they have something or not, and whether what they want to do is up to the individual person. The living person can be a living host, and if they want something paranormal in their house, then they can have they can have it only up to the point that the ghost is actually there. And if there's something that's just natural and it's not there, then it's not there.
Well, to get a little bit deeper into your ghost philosophy here, Mark, you mentioned, especially at the top of the show and frequently in the book, the idea that some people want to have these idea of pet ghosts. They want to have the activity for whatever reason, whether it be that it starts to happen and they like the idea of having it, or they just want to have it and they're hoping it happens. Do you think that it's possible that if somebody is in that state of mind, that they want to have a haunting, that they'll be able to help conjure a haunting?
Well, I believe that if conjuring, Ouija boards, that kind of thing, communication within an earshot of an entity is basically that. If you want an occurrence, if you want a ghost that's already there to stay, if there's nothing there, there's nothing to conjure. I mean,
Well, I'm thinking too about the idea of a tulpa, or a thought form.
a what?
Tulpa? Are you familiar?
No.
It's the idea. Tulpa's coming from, more of an Eastern philosophy, but in the West we call it more of an idea of a thought form. And what it is, it's the idea that if enough people and enough energy is put out with the idea of an entity being there, it basically creates the entity. There was a series of experiments, and I think in 1976.
The Philip experiment.
Yeah, in Toronto. Was it 1976 or 74?
74, I believe.
And it was a group of people that actually created a backstory for this ghost, and by creating the whole story of it and putting out the energy, they actually were able to create and communicate with that ghost. So it seems like it's something that does have some legitimacy to it, where if enough people think that a place is haunted and they put out that energy, it kind of becomes haunted.
Well, that's more psychological than anything else. And that's another thing that people want to, say that ghosts are some type of mythical situation, but and then enough people believe in a certain thing, it's got to be true or something like that. I believe if the spirits in a house are in a house, that's or any building or something like that. But if they're there, it doesn't matter how many people believe they're there. They're there.
Well, I mean, it might not just be a matter of belief either. It could be a matter of energy. If the energy is being put out there and the energy is being placed into that form kind of is created out of it.
I've never heard of that. I mean, as far as ghost investigations are concerned, they've always had an entity that was just there no matter how many people saw it. And some people saw the same entity, but it was actually an entity that was actually in the house.
Well, I mean, it's definitely something that's worth looking into, because I think as we enter into a new era here, we've been in it for a few years, but where the paranormal is becoming trendy, I think that might actually be what we end up seeing with a lot of these places, is you have, these created ghosts, and even if it's not an actual, an actual tulpa, an actual thought form, but what it is instead is you're placing the idea out there of the haunting, that every little thing becomes a sign of the haunting. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
I think, therefore, I haunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good T-shirt idea.
Yeah, I'd rarely have anything that even comes close to anything like that. Usually people have a problem. You can tell whether you have a problem or not. If you don't have a problem with something, then that's good. But even if you want to keep something, that's good. But usually the bulk of this business is people that have, problems with some type of perceived entity and how to take care of it.
I don't know. It seems interesting though that you're a parapsychologist and that's the first that you've heard of that. But I mean, it's like I said, it's definitely something that's worth looking into, because I think it does explain a lot of.
What are they bringing it back? Somebody back from the spirit world, or
No, it's the actual outright creation of a spirit, more or less.
I don't. I mean, an actual person that actually lived before.
It's basically the creation of a consciousness, and that's exactly what they were able to do in those Philip experiments. They created a consciousness that was able to interact, but it only knew the backstory, which is interesting. It only was able to confirm the backstory that they created. It wasn't able to provide any other details besides what they had laid out ahead of time.
Now, Tim, bear in mind that the idea of tulpas or creating these thought forms go back thousands of years.
Sure, they were created as almost as weapons.
Right.
As the idea being that these mystics would create them to go and do their work, and then once that work was done, you're stuck with an entity with nowhere to go.
Well, these aren't new ideas. These are found in different cultures all around the world. I'll give you, several examples. You have them in the Middle Eastern tradition, and you also have them in the Far East, and even in Jewish tradition, the Golem, for example. I mean, this is not new ideas. These have been around for a long time. But with the Philip experiment, what was interesting about it is that they were actually getting that same information back. Now, what begs the question is did they create it? Or was this some sort of entity that's paying attention to what they're doing and just parroting back?
Yeah, and that's of course a very real possibility.
Give the people what they want.
As I'm sure you've encountered, Mark. Not every spirit is always honest.
Well, I mean, a spirit's just a spirit. You know, they've got a certain type of issue, and either they're good people or bad people. You get a whole mixed bag.
And they
depending on how they're treated too.
They kind of retain that consciousness that they had in life.
So, Mark, I'm just curious. Have you ever yourself had a very personal experience with a haunting yourself?
Well, I've had one that was in a building, and it's an abandoned building, actually off of a main thoroughfare, and there was seemed like a shadow person, a black vaporous mist down the hall, and a couple of people came downstairs. They were running, wanting me to come up, and I thought something happened to one of them, and they had seen the same exact thing I saw downstairs, and it's with three people, and I thought that was kind of amazing that some other people backed up what I had said originally, and there was a couple others. One that actually was on an investigation, and there was a luminous apparition. And I told them, some of the members of the group, and they're all running with flashlights trying to find this this ghost. And you really have to see this particular kind of entity. You have to look into the darkness, and you'll see, just a silhouette, a light silhouette of an apparition. And a lot of investigators, they just want to just do their little EVP. They want to do their video. They want to go looking with flashlights. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of finesse, but it basically just wasn't for me. I wanted to help other people that had problems.
But you yourself have never, like, say, lived in a haunted location where, with a haunting itself, on a day-to-day or a week-to-week basis.
I had one occurrence. It was like every other day the light bulbs were blowing, and my girlfriend was in the house, and she actually went to her mother's one day, and she said that she couldn't take it anymore. And so I sensed something that night. It was just the same kind of routine. And I said, look, you've got to go. This is it. I know you're here. It's not working anymore, and that kind of thing. And I've actually threatened to come after them. And the next day, she'd come back, and it was like, she said, well, what happened? And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I can't sense the entity that was here anymore. And so that was another thing that I did, for the communication.
All right, so it wasn't an ongoing, many things. You just, as soon as things started to happen, you just sort of nipped it in the bud?
Well, I mean, that's what you really have to. If you don't, it just the activity, the occurrences over and over again, you just can't take it. It just becomes, either you go or I go, that kind of thing.
Speaking personally, I lived for 5.5 years in an old house that was haunted, and when I shortly after moving in, started experiencing things, and had some neighbors looking at me funny, and they were like, "Hey, how you making out in there, Andrew?" And I looked at them and said, "This place is haunted, isn't it?" And they chuckled and said, "Yes, we know the people, the woman who haunts the place, her and her daughter. They were very nice people while they were alive." And quite personally, the run-ins I had were just that. They were very warm and friendly, and it was probably the only time I ever saw a full-blown apparition, and got the warmest, most friendly smile from this lady who used to own the house. So for me, the activity was more kidding around, teasing, and more comforting, as if I had roommates. So I had no desire whatsoever to push this lady out of her house, and she lived there for 75, 80 years.
Was it like a full body apparition?
She started her torso towards the waist wasn't there, but her head, shoulders, and breast area were there. Her face was very beaming and very warm, and startled me. I actually reached out to grab her, and she backed off from me, and as she backed off into the sunlight streaming through the Venetian blinds behind her, she silently laughed. I didn't actually hear her laugh, but the look on her face was as if she found me very comical, and just faded away.
Did you say anything to her?
Yeah, I saw you. I laughed and said, I saw you. It was actually very exhilarating after only getting glimpses of things around the apartment to actually finally see her. It was pretty funny.
And after that, was there any other occurrences?
Oh, yeah, all the way to the time I moved out. Several.
Well, I hate to cut you off, Andy, but we are just about out of time. So we do have to say goodbye to Mark. But, Mark, we recommend that people pick up the Handbook for the Recently Haunted. Use it as a good overview, a jumping-off point to dig more into the paranormal. And thank you for trying to put it all together in one easy, concise, and pretty... I'd say it's a pretty good read. And I guess... if I made it through the whole show without calling it the Handbook for the Recently Deceased, I'm proud of myself. I'm just so used to making that joke. Deceased. So thank you very much for that. And again, everybody can get it wherever books are found online. All right. Thank you very much, Mark. Talk to you soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, next week we are going to have Stephen Volk as our guest, and if you haven't picked up his book, Fringeology, I highly recommend that you do. There comes along every few years a book that's going to kind of make a huge dent in the paranormal world. Fringeology is definitely that book. We'll talk about all that and more next week when we return. Again, remember, Bridgewater Triangle Investigation Show, August 27th. If you want to get involved, email us, spookykcrew@spookysouthcoast.com. We're going to be sending teams all over the place, all over the Bridgewater Triangle. We're going to continue to expand our definition of the triangle because we have more investigators than we have locations. So, no, I'm just kidding. So it'll be a great show. Everything's up there on the front page of spookysouthcoast.com if you want to check that out. Again, all the archives are up to date. We'll have this show up as well before we leave here tonight, and you'll be able to get every episode that we've ever done from the archives, from iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts, including Stitcher. Remember to tune into Spirit Connections with Tiffany Rice, 9 o'clock on Tuesday nights on Spooky TV. I'm going to be your guest coming up in a couple of weeks, so you don't want to miss that one. I'm sure that'll be a fun show. And again, next week, Stephen Volk, Fringeology. It's going to be a big one, so you might want to make sure you tune in for that. Until then, for Matt Costa, for Matt Moniz, for Andrew Lake, and for Chris Balzano, I'm Tim Weisberg. We want you all to stay spooktacular.
First with local news, talk, and sports. This is WBSM New Bedford, Citadel Broadcasting, AM 1420, WBSM.